Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is 9 a.m. on Friday, and you are watching me, Deb Burton, the host of Friday Friends and executive director of RI Elder Info, where every week for the last 6 years, we have brought you information that you or someone you know needs to know about. So make sure you hit the like button, the share button, all those social media cues that mean check this out. We're going to have a great conversation today about identifying what do you need and what do you want when it comes to long-term care. So it's going to be a great conversation, and I want to make sure that we reach as many people as possible. Now, as you all know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we could not do the work without the support of our sponsors. So a huge thank you to United Healthcare and Point 32 Health Foundation, and especially McCarthy Law. Here's a message from McCarthy Law.
Here at McCarthy Law, we practice in the areas of estate planning, long-term care planning, elder care law, and residential real estate. Our focus is really on providing peace of mind to our clients.
If you're interested in scheduling a consultation with our office, you can feel free to reach out to us at 401-541-5540. You can also reach out via website at www.mccarthylawri.com. You also should check out our social media, both on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for some helpful tips and tricks.
Welcome, Elizabeth. How are you today?
Great. How are you, Deb?
Good. So please tell everybody what it is that you do at McCarthy Law.
So I'm Elizabeth Tabor, and I am the Elder Care Coordinator for McCarthy Law. As Elder Care Coordinator, I work under their Life Care Planning Division, which involves incorporating the legal, financial, and care portions of care planning for seniors and adults.
That's really cool. That's kind of a unique position or a unique role in a law office. What is like your day-to-day work? What do you do?
Yeah, so I do a lot of client-facing interactions. And so it all starts with an initial consult. Oftentimes, I join the attorneys in on their elder law consults, or they pull me in after meeting with a family and they determine that the family needs additional support for the care needs for their loved one. And what they're really looking for in that is someone to help navigate the elder care process, whether that's somebody who's independent at home but may need some supportive services, somebody who's feeling isolated in their home, somebody who's starting to need care, or people who are looking to transition to a care community like an assisted living, memory care, or skilled nursing facility. So I really cover the bases from individuals who just want to be more social and need that kind of support, or somebody who is a little bit more isolated and wants the support to get additional, outlets for activity and companionship, all the way to those who are seeking hospice care and guiding families through that process. So if you think of me as your GPS system for elder care, which I love that imagery, but you put in the destination you want to go to when you're working with me. And so we discuss your goals, your values, your preferences, and then we come up with a plan together. And there are many different routes to get to where you want to be. And so I help you to turn by turn navigate those routes, navigate the care needs, navigate next steps. And then I help to advocate and coordinate care if necessary.
I love that analogy as a GPS, because do you find that sometimes people think they're going in one direction and they don't realize that there are many different off-ramps that might be a better journey for them?
Absolutely. And that's something that we've kind of put together as an illustration. that we can always share with you, Deb, is our elder care roadmap. And people think that aging is a linear process, and it's the exact opposite. We are on a highway with many different exits. And so, yes, at times it may be a straight A to B. You know, I broke my hip, I get the surgery, and I rehab, and I go home. Well, you might break your hip and have the surgery and need to go to skilled nursing for a little time for rehab. Or you might go from the rehab to an assisted living for additional support. So there are many different routes we can take. It's not all just one-way streets and an easy direction. And a lot of families get overwhelmed by all of those off-ramps. And, you know, oh, wait, there's a road closure ahead. That's no longer an option. Where do we need to go? And so having the ability to help families pivot and prepare is definitely one of the passions that I have about this position, is saying, you know, we can go any number of different routes. We present the options and the families make the choice.
I love that. And so I just have so many like happy thoughts about this. Are you able to say, I know a lot of times individuals and their families think that the choice is really black and white. You're at home or you're in a nursing home. And you and I know that there's a lot of options along that continuum. Are you able to help families say, find a home care agency that has the staff that the individual needs, that can provide that support at home? Like, do you provide that level of detail of reaching out to the home care agencies to find that help?
Absolutely. So over the last 23 years, I have gotten to know the majority, if not all, of the different care options in the state of Rhode Island, some of Massachusetts and Connecticut as well. But what is really beneficial is I have kind of pre-screened these resources and know what the personality of the companies are, know what their values are, know what their integrity looks like, and then the consistency of care that's so important. And in the industry, that is ever changing. We know that staffing is a problem, that there's a huge shortage of skilled healthcare workers. And so knowing that I have done check-ins with all of these agencies, I can put together a list. And we have, for any type of resources that I recommend, I use one rule, and it's called the 5-3-1 rule. So the 5-3-1 is I put together a list of 5 different options, because there's probably 50. And we want to make sure that we're narrowing that down. And there's a number of different factors that I use to narrow that down. You know, 1 being cost, 2 being need, 3 being location, all of those kinds of things go into my analysis. I present those 5 options to the family, and they choose 3 that they think would be the most viable option. And then of those 3, they either tour the facility, they talk to the intake coordinator for a home health care agency, they do an interview of a caregiver, and then they choose that one person that they think is the right solution for them. And that's something that I've shared with a lot of our partners that help with placing in assisted living. That's something that I share with all of our nursing home friends and those groups. And so we're really making it a standard in the industry when sharing those choices with families to be very conscientious about the options that we're putting in front of people. Is if I'm recommending a service, I want to be 100% sure that any one of the services they choose is going to fulfill their preferences.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important to really see the individual and what the individual needs or wants, and not necessarily in the same lens that the family members or care partners might view it, but to really see what that individual wants. Because I know that many times individuals will go to the hospital, have surgery, and it comes time for discharge, and they're handed it feels like an old school telephone book of, here's the list of facilities, pick the one you want. And there really isn't much guidance beyond that information. And it may not be the facility that is the best fit for the individual if you're not actually having a conversation with what that individual likes and wants. So I love that you can narrow that down for your clients. That's such a tremendous time saver. That's huge.
Absolutely. And we also advocate for our clients. And so if their preference is to go to nursing home A for rehabilitation and the hospital says, well, they don't have availability. And Elizabeth calls the admissions person that I have a personal relationship and I say, okay, what does it look like? Well, we'll have availability tomorrow. Okay. Did they tell the hospital that? Does the hospital know that? The hospital has an agenda they need to discharge. Well, guess what? It would not be a good discharge to send them just anywhere to hospital, to rehab C when they need to be at, rehab A. And so I advocate with the hospital. I work with the case managers. I get really creative with them on how to do their job so that the best outcome is available to our clients. And so I advocate with the nursing homes, I advocate with the hospitals, I advocate with physicians, and then I work with the families to get things done. And even if there is not an ideal situation, I'm still following my clients through the entire continuum. And so when they're discharged from the hospital to say they can't get into hospital A, we've done everything we can, that's not an option. So we go to plan B and they're at plan B and we say, let's get stable, let's get comfortable, and then we'll make a decision. And if that involves transferring someone from one facility to the next, I help facilitate that as well. And so we make sure that our clients are absolutely in the right place at the right time, no matter what.
And so even if somebody, say, the hospital's adamant you have to discharge today and, facility 7 on your list is the only place that has a bed available. If that individual gets discharged to number 7, you'll actually help get them over to their number 1 facility.
Absolutely. If they meet the criteria and that facility has the bed coming available, we could say in a week they'll have a bed, or we have to meet this milestone before they will admit. But we set goals and they're achievable. Everything is figure outable. It's something that I say all the time. We might not be experiencing things in the linear way we like to experience them. We like things that are predictable, outcomes that are expected, and that's not the real world that we live in. And so my job is to help everybody get a realistic view of what is possible. And so we might not be able to get you in tomorrow, but we can probably get you in next week. And these are the things we need to do that. And oftentimes, because of my personal relationship with so many of these nursing homes, I'm able to work with them in order to get a reasonable time frame for our clients.
Wow. Now, I would imagine that there are times when the client has one thought about what they want and need, and the family and the caregivers have different opinions on that. Are you able to kind of help mediate those conversations between the client and the family? Maybe the family is like, we really cannot provide the care this individual needs anymore. And yet the client might be saying, yes, you will. Are you able to work through some of those challenges?
Absolutely. And that's why my background in psychology helps, because working with clients and understanding the difference between expectations, wants, and needs is really important. And so I drill down with families as well as my clients, and I'm always looking out for my clients' best interests. So if the family wants or expects something that's unrealistic for the client themselves, I will stand between the client and the family and advocate for my client. But vice versa, if the client's expectations are unrealistic and the families are more realistic, then I bridge that gap. And what I tell families is that sometimes you need to step back and allow yourself to be the family and allow me to be the professional that steps in and is the bad guy. I can be the bad guy. I have a very thick skin when it comes to working with our clients, because ultimately it's for their best interest. And I always still allow them to maintain some sort of choice in the matter. You know, we can explain that your expectations might not be attainable right now, but let's look at a goal together. And so we're putting them in the driver's seat with bumpers and saying, you know, these are the safe options, and we want you to be able to make a choice. And the choice is not being taken from you. And that's something that we face a lot with being seniors, is that they feel that they've lost control over their own situations, their own decision making, their own autonomy. And what we do is we put them back in that driver's seat and allow them the control over decision making, but we give them the right options to make the best decisions.
I love that, because I feel like sometimes when I'm speaking with older adults, so often their autonomy is not recognized. The fact that they are grown adults who can make their own decisions, including bad choices, that it's almost as though options can be presented as though the individual were a 4-year-old. So I like the fact that you respect their autonomy and their right to make decisions, and you present them with the best options, knowing that they can always go with the worst. And they have that right. But to be able to really provide that guidance and provide realistic information as to who and how those needs can be met, and not just, oh, call this number and it'll all be fine, or, you know, here's a bunch of agencies and give it a whirl. But actually, these are the organizations, these are the businesses that can meet your needs. So not only can you make a choice about what you want, but when you make that choice, the providers that you're presenting to them can actually do it.
Right, exactly. And just like a GPS, you can choose not to listen. You can choose to go right and left. It's okay. You know, and I'm going to say, we were supposed to go left over there, or, you know, okay, now we're here. This
Recalculating.
Recalculating, exactly. A lot of what I do, especially with those who are in the throes of major life transitions. So major life transitions being a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's, a diagnosis of Parkinson's, somebody who was fine at home and now suddenly, and it feels so sudden and shocking, like going from 0 to 60. And at 0 to 60, you don't have a lot of control. You feel like, I don't even know what, you know, I'm holding on to the steering wheel for dear life, which is that stubbornness and that sense of control. But are you really in control when the car is going so fast? No, you're not. And so I'm saying we're going to slow it down. We're going to take it back. We're going to come to a place where we understand what our baseline is and we understand where we need to go from here. And again, that's all about our clients' priorities and values. And sometimes honoring priorities and values does not go the way that individuals expect. Right? We might have someone who intended on having a surgery and going to rehab and getting home, and that's the goal.
Yep.
And then they have the surgery, and we actually end up on a completely different plane. And so navigating that while still honoring that individual and their values and their preferences, just in a different way. And an agency that I've worked with in the past is that sometimes we are not losing hope. We're just looking at hope from a different angle, or we're looking at quality of life from a different angle. And it's still quality of life and it's still hope, but we just have to handle it in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. That concept of not taking away someone's hope is so important, especially, you know, as we're talking about the care continuums, you know, from home care or adult day health or assisted living or memory care or nursing home. Sometimes that additional step is hospice and having those conversations. Is that something that you can help an individual and family kind of discuss whether or not hospice is an appropriate option? Maybe not so much as from a medical point of view, but from a holistic care view. Can you help people with that conversation?
Absolutely. I have extensive experience working in hospice, for hospice, with hospice. And so my perspective on the hospice benefit is going to be a lot more open-minded and positive than most people. And I've been working on changing the narrative around hospice for many years, and it's a challenge. It's an uphill battle. But working with families and giving them really good quality examples is very important. I've worked with a family in a very similar situation to yours. This is what we chose to do, and this was the outcome. And so sometimes understanding quality of life, people think that means fighting for life, right? Doing everything that you can to preserve that. And that's the culture that we've developed as Americans, is that we are very curative based, tackle it, kill that cancer, do whatever it takes. And sometimes your quality of life is even less while you're pursuing those types of things. And if the case is that this is incurable and you're still pursuing a cure, you're not doing yourself any favors. And so a lot of times confronting families with some of the more difficult facts surrounding a diagnosis or situation means explaining what the two different options look like. If we decide not to go with hospice, this is what the near future brings. The end result is the same, right? If we go with hospice, this is what the future brings, and this is what quality of life looks like over quantity of life. And understanding that people think that hospice just means that you are actively dying now. And that's the opposite of what hospice's intent is. A lot of families actually experience a longer life under hospice because of the quality of support, comfort, and pain management that people receive. You're able to attend that last graduation. You're able to celebrate that last birthday. You're able to go on that last trip. And you're really able to enjoy it because you're comfortable and you're safe and you have support. And then the offering of support even after your loved one passes is invaluable for those who experience especially things like complex grief. We want to make sure that those people are supported as well. And so connecting them with the right hospice agency that has the right values and time that can be spent with the clients. There are so many different agencies for a reason. And so depending on the goals and preferences and values of the client, then we connect them with the right agency for them.
I love that. I love that you can cover the entire spectrum. So if folks want to reach out to you, do they give you a call at the 541-5540 number at McCarthy Law?
That's my number.
Okay, because there's so much more I feel like we can talk about, but I've already had you much longer than anticipated. But this conversation is really important for people to understand all these different options, and that it's okay to acknowledge that navigating them is not easy. So I'm hoping that you'd be willing to come back on again at a future date.
Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today, Elizabeth. We talked about so many different things. And if folks want to reach out to Elizabeth who are watching, again, her number is the 401-541-5540. That's the McCarthy Law number. You can also give them a call at the number that's crawling across the bottom of the screen, the 407-5975. Two phone numbers, same place. Thank you so much for coming on today, Elizabeth. I really do appreciate this.
It's been a pleasure.
Folks, as we are sharing the month of July with our family, with our friends, it's really important that we have conversations about what is important to us and what we expect and want for our future. And if you find that your family is having some challenges around that, or you would like support, please don't hesitate to reach out. As Elizabeth said, it's important for her organization, as well as RA Elder Info, that the places you reach out to that we talk about are places that you can trust. So don't hesitate to reach out. I am so glad that you have joined me here today. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. If you have any desires to see our prior videos, because we've been on for 6 years, there has been a change in the Facebook algorithm that they only allow our videos on Facebook to stay up for a month. So if you're looking for past episodes, please visit RI Elder Info on YouTube and you will find 6 years of information. So I look forward to seeing you all again next week. In the meantime, be well and be kind.